2 weeks later, Honda flies to China. He's here to check the prototype for the leaf insect. From the day he ordered it up until now, he's learned through trial and error that the thickness of the insect makes it difficult to add joints. How can he express the curving motion he wants without using joints?
When it bends, I don't want to see this gap. But joints might cause a big problem, right? Maybe it's impossible.
Since Honda never trusts his ideas too much, he's always on the move and goes to see people as soon as the thought strikes.
Hello.
Thanks for having me today.
Of course.
Today, he's visiting the president of a long-running magazine on insects. Among insect enthusiasts, he's an extremely well-known figure. Honda has him look at Hercules beetle prototypes.
I don't mean to nitpick, but the horn on this one is a little bit too thick.
It's still too thick.
That subspecies is a bit slimmer.
I'll see what I can do.
He didn't know much about insects at first.
Not at all. I really studied hard.
Now, when I tell him a certain part is different, he understands what I'm talking about. The average person would probably think it's trivial, though.
Even on his days off, Honda is on the move, looking for hints for development. Today, he's visiting a fair where insect specimens are sold.
I try to go to as many exhibitions like this as I can. Today, I bought a Centaurus beetle in its pupa form. The features really stand out. You can see every detail really clearly. It also has a very nice color gradation.
On another day, he goes to a reptile fair. He says he just finished a figure of this gecko the other day.
When I handle an animal after I've made a figure for it, I can see where it's different and how I could improve the figure more. I have to compare what I've made with the real thing.
Using his brain, body, and hands to the fullest, he creates surprising figures that go beyond what even experts dream of.
My goal when I create figures is to make professionals say, "That's amazing. You reproduced it in such detail." I want to be thorough about things the average person wouldn't consider.
In July, a special development project is about to begin.
Today I'll be presenting about a 90mm Gundam.
He'll be making a capsule toy 90 millimeters wide.
I believe it will surprise people with its size.
90 millimeters will be amazing.
Compared to a typical capsule about 70 millimeters wide, the new capsule will have more than double the volume.
I want to make people say, "Wow, you can do that?" They should be filled with wonder and amazement by the product in their hands. I'll need to think hard in order to achieve that.
The subject he's chosen is a robot from a popular anime. One of the selling points will be the astonishing impact of the robot's head coming out of the machine without a capsule. What's more, Honda is considering a certain mechanism.
One of our themes is open hatch, where you can open lots of hatches to recreate the look of the robot being repaired.
Open hatch refers to being able to open hatches on various parts of the robot to expose the inner workings. In addition to the enjoyment of seeing the inner parts, Honda wants to stir up excitement and nostalgia. 6 days later, the first prototype he ordered from China has already arrived. However,
It has quite a feeling of volume to it, but in terms of whether it feels like something new, the details are too weak. To tell the truth, this level of detail has been good enough for our capsule toys up until now. So this would probably end up being a larger version of that. And to be honest, this won't surprise anyone.
in order to make something that goes beyond expectations, Honda heads to Yokohama to visit a certain person.
Hello.
Good to meet you.
This is a plastic model builder who works under the name Shimoda Heavy Industries. Honda fell in love with his works and contacted him through his social media.
The way you add details and colors really makes people feel excited, just looking at the models. At times like this, I feel like we need to bring in someone with a completely fresh perspective to create something new. I really want him to work with us. I hope he can create something that goes far beyond what I can imagine.
Sounds challenging. I'll give it all I've got.
Shimoda will create the design, while Honda will handle the overall blueprint. With the two working in tandem, an unprecedented new challenge has started with a bang.
I'm Honda. It's good to meet you.
Good to meet you too.
In recent years, Honda has started approaching rising new prototype creators to develop capsule toys together.
I was incredibly surprised. I don't know my way around this industry yet, so getting an opportunity like this is really exciting.
Honda has a personal reason for doing this.
For my own part, it took a very long time for me to find my footing in this field. I took a long detour to get here.
Osaka in 1968, Honda was a child who loved to build his own versions of toy models.
I came up with my own ideas as I made them. I had fun doing that. And I also wanted my friends to be impressed when I showed them what I'd made.
He studied mechanical engineering in university and joined a toy manufacturer after he graduated. In his fourth year, he was assigned to the planning and development department that he'd aspired to join and eagerly started trying to create a hit product. However, he had trouble communicating instructions on how to build prototypes and didn't know how to go about improving them.
I'd put all my ideas into it, but in the end, the product that resulted was something different from what I had been imagining.
When he released products that he wasn't confident about, sure enough, they didn't sell. 10 months after he'd been assigned, he was suddenly called in by his boss and told, move to a different department.
To be honest, I felt like I was branded as someone with no taste, no talent, and no future.
After working in the sales department for 3 years, he was put in charge of factories in China. At the factories, he managed the employees who checked product quality and worked on the manufacturing line. During that time, he became painfully aware of something.
For the first time, I started to realize that I barely knew anything. I'd think, so this is what I could have done to solve that problem back then. I really started to understand the things I hadn't known and how
his capsule toys, which featured popular anime characters with added mechanisms, were a massive hit. But Honda wasn't satisfied. The toys had sold because of the characters. Could he call that proof of his ability to develop ideas? Instead of asking to change departments, he spent another 10 years working in places like China and France. He finally returned to the Planning and Development Department in his 25th year at the company, at age 48. He had a proposal that he had secretly been working on for a year. It was for the pill bug.
Rather than make a cute item, I wanted the more humble pill bug. It's such an ordinary bug. I wondered over and over if it was really necessary to put so much effort into it. But as I did, I felt more and more that it would turn out really interesting.
Honda prepared thoroughly and presented his idea at a proposal meeting. However,
everyone stared blankly like, what is this guy talking about? I felt completely out of place as I presented, like no one understood what I was saying.
Despite this, Honda refused to back down. He'd persevered without stopping for 20 years, even when no one would listen to him.
Backing down meant it was over. This was a chance to prove that everything I'd done up until then was right, from the way I thought to how I made proposals. If it had been some other product, I might have been able to withdraw the proposal, but this was the one thing I couldn't back down on.
Presentations normally lasted about 5 minutes, but Honda continued talking for nearly 30.
The department director at the time said, "All right, we get it. If you want to do it that badly, then let's give it a shot." He persuaded everyone to try it.
1 year later, the pill bug he'd devoted his life to went on sale. Honda couldn't stand waiting around and went to a store to watch the capsule machine in secret. And before his eyes,
one after another, the customers gathered around the machine, and everyone gave it a try. I was fixed on the spot, watching how well it sold. I was like, oh, that person too. And that lady bought more than 3 of them. They kept selling at such an incredible speed. I remember excitement welling up inside as I watched.
After a seemingly endless 20-year detour, there is something Honda now believes.
It feels like I took a very long detour to get here. But ultimately, going through that experience is why I now have confidence in the products I make. That experience helped me build the ability to come up with different ideas and develop projects differently from other people.
Honda is hard at work on the new 90mm capsule toy. He's received the design from Shimoda, the model builder he's working with.
I think he probably spent a lot of sleepless nights working hard on this design. It's incredible, especially the neck. It's really close to the sort of thing I was looking for. I think we're a lot closer to a design. I'm glad.
The design goes beyond his expectations. Honda decides to change his strategy.
Having this much volume brings out the coolness of the Gundam really well. So I think we should change the original idea of leaving out the bottom part.
Instead of just the head, he changes the design to consist of the outer head, the inner head, and the chest. It'll be a 3-part set. Collecting all 3 capsule toys will form a single large robot bust. Days later, more pictures arrive from Shimoda.
It's his report on how things are going.
He's made progress and even colored the model. However, Honda looks troubled. He's concerned the robot is too faithful to a pre-existing design and doesn't bring out enough of Shimoda's own style.
If we make everything exactly the way it is in the pre-existing design, the result will end up being something that people have already seen. Giving it a little more originality will seem more attractive to people because it feels new. So we have to figure out how much originality to add. Finding the right balance is extremely difficult.
2 days later.
It's my pleasure.
We pay a visit to Shimoda.
He said it didn't feel like my style. I was like, wait, you said to tone down my style to 30%. That was my reaction at first. But his
progress with the overall blueprint, which Honda is in charge of. Honda has received a prototype from the manufacturer in China. It's the open hatch part of the head. Like always, he picks it up and fiddles with it over and over. After 30 minutes have passed,
I'm satisfied with about half of it. That half brings out the powerful impact that I'm aiming for. The remaining half still has room for improvement. There are lots of places where some adjustments would make it better.
he's satisfied with the way the hatch is open. However, the assembly process isn't exciting enough.
I was struck by the feeling that I wanted another step. Between the inner parts and the outer layer, I want to add a frame that connects the inner and outer parts. That's the idea I have right now. That frame will be a crucial part of the product. It'll be the component that helps get people absorbed in the building process. That's what we want.
There are only 2 weeks left until the meeting that will ultimately decide whether to mass produce this capsule toy. In terms of the schedule, it would be extremely difficult to make revisions and get a new prototype. Honda makes up his mind. He'll send instructions to China right away and have another prototype made. He'll save time by going to China to check the product and bringing it back directly himself.
Yes, I'll be cutting it close.
Honda hurriedly writes up the instructions for adding the frame and sends them to China. That night, Shimoda finishes his prototype. Honda feels the prototype, studying it carefully.
It has a strong feeling of stability. It's really cool.
Just as Honda hoped, Shimoda has found a perfect balance between the robot's pre-existing design and his own style.
I'm sure I asked a lot of you in a short amount of time. But you pulled through. You finished the design much faster than I imagined.
I can't wait until it's released. I'm probably not supposed to talk about it until then. I want it to go on sale soon so I can tell everyone.
Well, that's all for today.
It may have taken a long detour to get here. But thanks to that detour, or rather because of it, he's living his dream as a toy developer now.
I was quickly branded as a failure at development and went from one place to another. When I happened to go to Hong Kong, I met people who worked in those factories and gained the opportunity to learn about all kinds of things there. I love capsule toys more than anyone, and I love developing them. So I want to make capsule toys that sell more, surprise more, and delight more than any others.
Today, Honda will finally check the prototype in China.
I'm always eager to see a new prototype and hold it in my hands. But at the same time, I'm worried that once I have it, there will be problems I'll have to deal with. I'm a little anxious.
Honda puts together the red frame that he added.
This function is good. Very good. It's difficult to complete it in such a short term.
Yes, you can, yeah. Just complete this morning.
Oh, really?
Honda's passion was answered by a miracle.
When I first saw the figure with the frame attached to it, I really felt a sense of dimension, like the frame added more depth to the figure. So I was excited.
NHK documentary.
Japan is a land of beauty, filled with joy and wonder. Beset by tragedy. But for every story of loss, there is a story of resilience, a lesson in harmony. Discover new voices. NHK World Japan.
Listen to NHK World Japan's wide-ranging audio content anytime, anywhere. Daily news from Japan and around the world is available in 17 different languages. Check out our new podcast series, Vision Vibes, a collection of inspiring interviews.
Our life itself is built out of lots of preludes.
Listen to NHK World Japan through our website, free app, or podcast.
Are you ready to start speaking Japanese?
大丈夫。
この電車は池袋に行きますか?
Easy Japanese gets newcomers to the language going. It comes from NHK World Japan.
Today we'll learn how to ask if a certain kind of public transportation goes to your destination.
You'll learn 48 phrases you can use right away with tools to help you remember. Download the audio and text from the website. And check your comprehension with the quizzes. If you're not sure about a character, just review the hiragana chart. Support comes in 19 languages. Choose yours and begin your Japanese journey.
NHK ワールドジャパンで一緒に日本語を勉強しましょう。
Are you ready to use Japanese on the job?
お客様と話すは自信はあんまりないと思います。
NHK World Japan is here to help with easy Japanese for work. You'll meet people from abroad working in Japan and learn good ways to talk to colleagues. They try out role-playing in all sorts of situations.
トゥアンさん、お礼を言ったら。
お礼ですか?
After that, Japanese language experts point out practical phrases.
手伝ってくれましたではなく、くださいましたの方がいいですよ。
The program teaches useful kanji and respectful business expressions. The website offers even more opportunities for self-paced learning. Come study with us on NHK World Japan.
You're watching NHK Newsline. I'm Kanako Sakno. Volunteers are trickling into areas of central Japan affected by the powerful New Year's Day earthquake. People in Ishikawa Prefecture are hoping that more will come to help out at understaffed evacuation centres and elsewhere. In the town of Shika, some sorted through pieces of broken furniture and tableware.
なんか思い出のものとか。
My heart aches seeing these reminders of the people who lived here. I'll do my best.
Flights have resumed between Tokyo's Haneda Airport and Noto Airport in Ishikawa Prefecture, where workers had to repair cracks in the runway caused by the quake. Some passengers at Haneda were on their way to see their parents and others and to take part in volunteer activities.
My parents have been staying in an evacuation center for a long time, so we are flying to Wajima to discuss what to do next.
I think more and more volunteers will be able to go to the disaster-hit areas. The fact that you can travel there by air in just an hour makes a huge difference.
All Nippon Airways says it will operate 6 flights a week through the end of February. Police say a suspect in a 1975 bombing in Tokyo has been found after being on the run for almost 50 years. They say the man is hospitalized in Kanagawa Prefecture, near the capital. He's believed to be Kirishima Satoshi, a member of an extremist group that orchestrated a series of bombings in the mid-1970s, who would now be 70 years old. The East Asia Anti-Japan Armed Front is responsible for 12 bombing attacks in Japan targeting companies. In 1974, the group bombed the headquarters of Mitsubishi Heavy Industries in Tokyo's Marunouchi business district. The blast killed 8 people and injured 165. Kirishima is suspected of being involved in a bomb attack at a building in Ginza, Tokyo in 1975. He was placed on a nationwide wanted list. Police say the man believed to be Kirishima was hospitalized under a false name and that he's receiving treatment for terminal stage cancer. He later told hospital staff that he was Kirishima and they notified the police. Under questioning, he gave police details of the 1975 bombing. Police are also expected to conduct a DNA test to confirm his identity. North Korea and China have agreed to continue strengthening cooperation and defending common core interests. North Korea's ruling Workers' Party newspaper Rodon Shinmun reported the agreement, citing a meeting between the country's Foreign Minister Che Son-hee and Chinese Vice Foreign Minister Sun Weidong in Pyongyang on Friday. Che and Sun also said they would commemorate the 75th anniversary of diplomatic ties. Sun held talks with North Korea's Vice Foreign Minister on the same day. The newspaper said they exchanged views on global issues, including those affecting Northeast Asia, stressing the two countries' stance of working closely together. South Korea's Yonhap news agency reported the North may have explained to China its change in policy towards South Korea. Last month, leader Kim Jong-un announced his country would redefine South Korea as a hostile enemy country rather than as a party to be reunited with. A jury in New York has ordered former U.S. President Donald Trump to pay $83.3 million in damages to the writer E. Jean Carroll for defaming her after she accused him of sexual assault. Jurors in a federal court in Manhattan handed down the verdict on Friday. In 2019, when Trump was president, Carroll published a memoir in which she accused him of raping her in the 1990s in a department store dressing room. Trump repeatedly claimed she was lying and made up the accusation to sell her book. In a civil trial in May last year, Trump was ordered to pay Carroll $5 million in damages for sexual abuse and defamation. The former president appealed the case, and Carroll's legal team this time was seeking at least $24 million in additional damages. Trump slammed Friday's verdict in a social media post, saying it was, quote, absolutely ridiculous and that he fully disagrees with both verdicts. He also wrote he will be appealing this whole Biden-directed witch hunt focused on me and the Republican Party. Trump is facing 4 criminal trials and a civil case as he campaigns for the White House. U.S. President Joe Biden's administration has paused new approvals for applications to export liquefied natural gas. It cites the need to further study the environmental and economic impacts of the gas. Biden apparently aims to underscore his commitment to address climate change ahead of the presidential election in November.
The Biden-Harris administration is announcing a pause on pending applications to export liquefied natural gas to non-free trade agreement countries from here in the United States.
The Department of Energy must authorize exports of LNG to countries that do not have a free trade agreement with the United States. The Biden administration noted the criteria the department uses to determine those permits are roughly 5 years old. It stressed the pause will have no near-term impact on the delivery of LNG to U.S. allies in Asia and to European countries who are working to reduce their reliance on Russian natural gas. Climate activists in the US have criticized the growing production and exports of LNG. The US is the world's largest exporter of the fuel. US exports of LNG are projected to double by 2030. The head of the United Nations Refugee Agency is calling on the international community to keep up its support for Ukrainians displaced by Russia's invasion of their homeland. The invasion will hit the 2-year mark in February. The UNHCR estimates that about 10 million people, or roughly a quarter of Ukraine's population, have fled their homes. About 6.3 million have gone abroad, while the rest have sought refuge elsewhere in their country. Agency head Filippo Grandi spoke to NHK during a recent visit to Kyiv.
We have not seen a huge return movement yet, because I think people are still worried that with the war, with the hardship here, it will not be easy to come back. People need what is called here recovery. This is more than humanitarian support. This is, for example, giving people cash to be able to survive, to be autonomous until they can find a job again.
He also expressed concern that the public will lose interest in Ukraine due to the conflict in the Gaza Strip. Grandi acknowledged that other global crises are taking the spotlight off Ukraine.
だけで牡蠣がずっと口を開けてるんですよ。そしたらずっと餌を食べるからだんだん大きくなってくるんですよ。
Next up, your 3-day world weather forecast. That wraps up this edition of NHK Newsline. I'm Kaneko Sakno in Tokyo. Thanks very much for joining us.
How do we face a turbulent world in 2024? Today we look for answers with Nishi Kaneko, an award-winning author.
I have always been writing about reclaiming my whole self, including body and mind, from society.
Deciding what I should be has been a constant theme in her works. It became much more relevant to her 3 years ago when she was diagnosed with breast cancer. Nishi's latest work is partly based on her battle with cancer. The book features people who struggle to live in modern society, but find hope nonetheless. Reading Nishi's works makes me feel that I don't need to put a lid over my feelings. It lets me breathe more easily. Author Nishi Kaneko, who has now been writing for 20 years, shares her ideas about happiness and how to find your true self.
Hello. I'm Nishi. Nice to meet you. I'm Kawako. Thanks for inviting us into your workplace. There are a lot of books, just as I imagined. This used to be my home, but I turned it into my office. Something caught my attention. I love The Kiss by Gustav Klimt. I wanted a Klimt on my wall, but of course they're way too expensive, so I drew one myself. It's wonderful. Is that cardboard? Yes, I put a bunch of pieces together because I couldn't find one big enough. Most of my book covers are also crayon on cardboard. So that's why there's a sense of consistency. The covers of Nishi's novels are mostly her own drawings. This is the one I used for my latest book, Watashi ni Aitai. These pieces can be moved around. Can I touch it? Of course, I used crayon on cardboard for this too. This is a tree, which also looks a bit like a human body. The tree's skin has many different colors, and these pieces are breasts. The tree has a lot of breasts. You can take them off and move them around. Oh, I see. They come off. And they come in all shapes and colors. There's quite a variety. I was my own hero. The hero smiles confidently. Not a word is spoken, but she still says, I'm by your side. There's an idea that doppelgangers are scary, and seeing one is an omen of death. But in your book, you describe the doppelganger as a hero who helps the protagonist and keeps her away from death. I thought it was a really creative take on doppelgangers. Where did it come from? Maybe because I'm from the Kansai region, the home of manzai comedy, there's always another me looking over me and speaking to me, and my double likes to check me. This nature of mine got stronger when I became a writer. For example, sometimes I'm invited to give talks before large audiences. When I say something I think is smart or cool, the other me quickly checks me by saying, there you go again, there you go showing off again. It might sound like my double is being harsh on me, but actually my double is really soft. It's more like, you're at it again, but I understand you want to sound smart, especially in front of these people. My other me is very supportive of me. And that's something I've always had. I see. This is no longer the case, but in the past, lots of stories were about a woman and the male hero who came to the rescue. That's what we saw in the media or in books. In these stories, they have to wait for the hero. But if you're your own hero, you can make your own decisions. It may sound silly, but that's what led to Watashi ni Aitai, or I Want to See Me. I think it would be reassuring if my double came to help. Do you feel there's a hero inside me? There's a kind person who stands by me and says, what's done is done, but it's okay. You're probably strict with yourself. I'm very easy on myself. Well, I think too many people are hard on themselves. When I think someone is working hard, they don't seem to think so themselves. I think everyone cuts corners a little, and that's okay. But they can't forgive themselves.
Nagahama Neru says reading Nishi's books has helped her become herself again. she used to be a member of the popular idol group Keakizaka 46. She's now an actor and TV personality.
I've always kept in mind a phrase from her book, Goodbye. You shouldn't let someone else decide what you believe in.
Nagahama says she used to be concerned about how other people saw her. She says that phrase helped liberate her.
You shouldn't let someone else decide what you believe in.
There were many times when I became obsessed with someone's words, and they made me lose touch with myself, as if I were under a spell. But Nishi made me realize I'm the only one who can truly care for myself, and encouraged me to be the one who trusts me most. I tend to fret over how people see me. If I say something wrong, etc., I now accept this as part of my character. That's the biggest change I've made.
She says Nishi's latest book conveys its message in a more straightforward manner.
In the book, there are many episodes that make you ask, isn't this strange? In one, a character says, this girl is pretty, or she attracts people's attention because her face is pretty. We hear words like this all the time, but I find them very offensive. It's not uncommon that a stranger says, you should lose weight, or I'd like it if you were a bit plumper. You'd look more girlish that way. It really bugs me. Nishi's book speaks out on behalf of me. It lets me know it's all right I feel the way I do, that I don't need to put a lid over my feelings. It lets me breathe more easily.
Watanabe Sayo is Nishi's editor. After reading the latest manuscript for the first time, she sent Nishi a message.
I want all the people living with pain to read this book. Ordinary people can speak up more easily today compared to 5 or 10 years ago. Anyone can voice their pain and express their feelings, and society is accepting that. I think such circumstances are being created now. I think if each of us changes, society as a whole will also gradually change.
I think your books have encouraged many people to be positive about themselves, including actors like Nagahama. But we have to remember, in today's society, it's very easy to say what you want to other people. This means it's also easy for others to say what they want to us. Such an environment can lead us to shut ourselves out. It's hard to remain positive about ourselves in these conditions. What do you think?
Things are harsh, especially for young people. We had a tough time too, but they have lived through a very harsh environment. They are surrounded by information that tells you to do this or do that in order to achieve something. It's impossible to have opinions that are entirely your own in today's world, which is sad. But that's how it is. We are definitely influenced by something or someone. What we can do is try to maintain ourselves as much as possible by keeping my own feelings, what I think, what I want to do, what I like, things like that. I try to raise the level of who I truly am. To know what you want to do or what you like, it's important to keep yourself away from information, to unplug. When I want to find something out about myself, I try to go somewhere without any noise. It's very important to go somewhere with no psychological noises.
You mean we should put down our smartphones?
No, that's impossible.
They're too much fun.
That's true. So how do we maintain ourselves, like you said?
You mean if we have smartphones? I don't know. It depends on the individual. But think about it like this. How do you feel when you put down your smartphone and unplug? Don't you think it's nice? Don't you like it when you go somewhere and find there's no cell phone service? If you don't feel this way, we should just stop talking right now.
I know what you mean.
Wow, no one can find me, or I'm the only one here.
I am free.
A world where I can form opinions about what I see in my own way, free from the influence of other people. Information is very accessible today. It's too easy to get the right answer. We always look at social media. When the Black Lives Matter movement started, I couldn't resist going online to see what the people I respect were saying. I thought, that's right, that's what I think. But then I thought, wait, did you really think that from the start? You have always made a lot of mistakes before you reached your own idea. If you look at social media first, you end up thinking you thought like that from the beginning, but it's not actually your idea. That's kind of scary. I also don't want to be afraid of making mistakes because I write novels. The novel is a genre in which the author makes detours and uses countless pieces of paper just to say one word. My profession allows me to take as much time as I need. It's all right to only reach a conclusion after I make a lot of mistakes and exhaust myself. A self that you create instantly is probably not a true self. I always write as I. Whenever I reach an answer too quickly, it's not the true I. It shouldn't be so easy. I need to talk to lots of people, listen to their opinions, say something wrong, and occasionally argue. Then I'm finally able to say, this is my answer.
Nishi says she's unafraid of making mistakes and takes time to reach answers. She tells us about her routine to do so.
At the end of each day, I look back on all the feelings I had. There's no day when nothing happens. If I felt irritated, for instance, I think deeply about what caused it, however slight it was. I don't pretend nothing happened. I carefully analyze my feelings to find out why I got angry. In most cases, I faced the dark